Sambula Vinaka, and a warm welcome to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. We're your only classic hit station in the country. Be sure to tune in. This is our live radio talkback show, and we also have the delayed coverage shown on FBC TV every Tuesday nights and Wednesday mornings at 11. Happy International Literacy Day. Being able to read and write is a fundamental human right and the key to opening up the future. The Secretariat of the Pacific Community's Educational Quality and Assessment Program is mandated to develop quality education in the Pacific. ECAP has two teams that directly assist Pacific Island countries like Fiji with literacy efforts. These are the Curriculum and Assessment Team and the Large-Scale Assessment Team. So the large-scale assessment team lead the PILNA effort. This is a survey conducted every 3 years to find out the proficiency of students at Year 4 and Year 6 in literacy and numeracy. Two members of the large-scale assessment team join us today to talk about the importance of literacy and what the last research, PILNA 2018, tells us about literacy learning in the Pacific. Oh, it's a long introduction, but since it's International Literacy Day today, it's only fitting that I have guests from SPC's Education Division, ECAP, and this is Seru Ramakita. He's the numeracy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, and we also have Ratieli Kacilala, who is the literacy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team. Now, before we begin, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your work in education. I understand you were both teachers before you joined ECAP.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you for having us today. I am, as you've mentioned, Ratieli Kacilala, and I've been with ECAP, Education Quality and Assessment Program, for a little over 6 years, particularly looking after the literacy aspect of PILNA. The literacy team is made up of professional officers within ECAP itself, but then we have in-country teams too that are representatives or senior officers of the curriculum unit in the 15 countries that we serve.
Okay.
Yes, and we call them in at certain time of the cycle, the new cycle. We're talking about the 4th cycle now, and this happened, we call them in last year for item development, and that's a major, as writing new items to trial out. Today, I believe PNG starts the trial for the new, trial of new items for the 4th cycle.
Oh, okay.
So that's me for now.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Ratieli. So we'll hear from Seru now.
Thank you, Luis. I'm Seru. Was a teacher for close to 20 years. Worked a bit in the Ministry of Education as a divisional counselor in the Eastern. Came to our scholarship unit before joining ECAP as a numeracy specialist with regards to large-scale assessment and PILNA. Going on my 3rd year now with ECAP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So today is International Literacy Day, a day set aside to reflect on the importance of literacy in our daily lives. Let's dwell on how important literacy is by imagining a life with poor literacy skills. So, Ratieli, you might like to elaborate on how life would be with poor literacy skills and what opportunities we would miss.
When we consider our definition of literacy, which is having the necessary skills and knowledge to be able to communicate within their own society or with a wider world on any aspect of life, using any language they're comfortable with. I can't imagine myself without literacy skills. I don't know. I just mentioned to somebody this morning I'd be missing my bus, maybe my plane, I wouldn't know what's happening because I wouldn't be able to read this.
Honestly,
I'd probably be powerless. I don't know if I would have a voice in society.
Very true.
Yes, and it's just amazing when we realize it. And we'll talk more on how literacy is just important when we at a time like COVID-19.
Exactly. I mean, geez, if we didn't know how to read, like you said, we
Imagine.
wouldn't know what bus to catch,
Oh
where
my
to go,
goodness.
so many things.
A bit chaotic.
It would be really chaotic. So that is how important literacy is. Do we have any idea when we first started learning how to read and write? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you have any history of that. It would have been a long, long time ago, I suppose.
I guess long time ago. And what would have been one of the core functions of education as it was introduced into Fiji? You know, to be able to understand what is it that we're looking at, because these were foreign to us. You know, it's just that this time around with what we do, we're using assessment to sort of inform how this has to be taught. And so it's sort of giving directions, clear directions to parents and teachers, of course, and schools on how best to sort of get learning on literacy across to the classroom.
That's right. So, Seru, would you say that your proficiency in literacy helped you to carve a successful career?
Very much. Even though my background is on mathematics and science, things are taught in English.
True.
So it's basic understanding, the ability to read and extract from information that is given.
True.
So I would say that for me to be successful in this area of mathematics or numeracy, I need to be also good with literacy, with my reading, with comprehension and all those.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I will struggle on this area or any other area if I want to venture into that in terms of career path.
That's so true. I mean, I know for a fact that if you fail English, you fail all subjects. Is that still in the country? Does that still hold? But I remember that that was the case probably in our time. So, I mean, because if, like you said, you do maths, and it's so important, especially for our children when they sit in for exams, and, the question, that is the most important thing for a student to understand, or even an adult, for anything like that. So, yeah, I couldn't imagine a life without literacy as well. I mean, it really helps you, and with the internet as well, you can even teach yourself. But on Speak Your Mind, we'll be back soon. Gold FM, only the classic hits. We're back on Speak Your Mind. Gold FM, only the classic hits. Happy Literacy, International Literacy Day. And our guest from ECAP, we have the numeracy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Seru Ramakita, and also the literacy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Ratieli Kacilala. Well, let's just move on with a question that I didn't get to ask you earlier. Many misunderstand what literacy is. Can you help them define this?
Yeah, I had mentioned this a little earlier, Louis, but literacy is not limited to English in our work.
Okay.
Yes, literacy is really the language of instructions, the language of teaching that children are exposed to in these 15 countries or 14 countries. Okay. And so we write out the questions in English and they're translated. In the 2018 cycle, we translated this into 9 target language. So kids are comfortable to write out the answers to these questions which are translated in their own language.
Yes.
So the misunderstanding is that it's only about English, one, and it's only about reading and writing.
Right.
Because it's pen and paper, we're only assessing reading, comprehension, and writing. Because the dynamics in assessing listening and speaking skills, just little because we're dealing with primary school. We yet to get to that, but it'll be good to know that when talking about literacy, we're talking about these 4 codes: able to speak, write, listen, and say.
Right. Communicate.
In whatever language. Communicate.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. So this year's theme is on literacy, teaching and learning in the COVID-19 crisis and beyond. So we can see that it's linked to the crisis that the world is faced with. What is the significance of literacy to emergencies like COVID-19?
PILNA, the Pacific Island Literacy and Numeracy Assessment, only assesses two subject areas, sort of, the literacy and the numeracy. Why only these two areas? Because we believe these are the building blocks.
Yes.
If kids can read, they should, have their literacy skills and the basic numeracy skills. They should manage fairly well in society and be able to manage other subject areas. So out of literacy especially, in reading comprehension, we're looking at 3 learning outcomes. These are skills.
Okay.
1, for children to be able to read something and identify the useful information to them.
Okay.
2 is they be able to whatever they're reading or hearing, they're able to read between the lines and say, this information is maybe, they're trying to verify.
Okay.
And then there's the higher order skill of critical analysis, where they read and say, this may be true, this may, they're not gullible to whatever comes.
Yes, so they have questions.
Yes.
Yes.
And with COVID-19, you would know how chaotic things were when it first the information, when we first knew of our first case. People were sort of running wild, so to speak. And that's by people who could read and write. And imagine for those who are not that literate.
Honestly.
So COVID-19 is, for us, we believe that it's just a jolt to just to remind us of what's already happening. Literacy issues have been around for a while. This COVID-19 is sort of just a reminder, eye-opener, to tell us literacy needs to be part of, because government is already doing something about it. What are the societies doing about it? What are the families doing about it? What are individuals doing about it to help get children to read and write and be ready for this? You see, with COVID-19, we responded, for Fiji's case, we responded by keeping children at home, and teachers wrote materials and sent them home. Question is, are the people at home equipped with enough literacy skills to help their children?
Yeah.
Second question is, there were a lot of things written about COVID-19, life-saving information. Are we all able to access that, understand what we are reading, writing, and listening to? Or are we just going, oh, okay, somebody has died of this and that and that and that, to that serious kind of talk. And this literacy is really needed now and beyond, just so that our children are better equipped come what may, whether it be a pandemic or anything else, disaster of whatever a magnitude. We are ready to decide to identify this information that's useful, interpret it, and use it, and be critical about the information that we got.
Thank you, Ratieli. I mean, it was a shock. I mean, even right across the world, not only in Fiji. I mean, what about teachers, how they would have felt? Because, they were doing different things, on TV, online. So, Seru, may we hear your take on the same question?
Thank you, Luis. I think with this COVID-19 pandemic, there's a big opportunity. There was a big opportunity there. One is for parents to now come to understand the amount of work that are being done by teachers in terms of teaching literacy.
Yeah.
And also, they also come to realize that they can share also in the role of teaching of literacy, because it's just basic reading, basic listening. It's all basic of probably English.
Yeah.
So there's a shift there. With this COVID, and now parents are coming to realize that they have a part to play here.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's all shifted to the teachers to be handling all this.
That's true.
But
Teachers
this is an
always
opportunity
take
for them to also take part in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is so true. So, it's not only about teachers. I mean, with the parents, we work together, then the child will excel. But we'll be back shortly on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. We're your only classic hit radio station in the country. Be sure to listen in. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. I'm Louise Kaunisela, and our guest in the studio, the numeracy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Seru Ramakita, and also the literacy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Ratieli Kacilala. So our next question, what does PILNA 2018 say about the literacy of the Pacific students at the Year 6 level of education, at least? Would they be capable of understanding emergency communication, obviously related to COVID-19? Is that right?
Yep, very good question, Louis. Maybe at this point, I'd like to, on behalf of Dr. Michelle Belay, Director of ECAP, to acknowledge the assistance by the Australian government and New Zealand government in funding initiatives and projects like PILNA to bring about improvement in learning and lifelong learning in the region. So while at that, I had earlier mentioned how ECAP through PILNA has had 3 cycles already. This idea of PILNA, an instrument to assess literacy and numeracy, was mooted way back in 2006.
Okay.
So if you figure out, we've been around for a while.
Yeah.
Yes. In 2012, we had a first. It was just to see a snapshot of what literacy and numeracy status was in the Pacific. And 2015 was another cycle where we were mandated to sort of look at a benchmark. It was diagnostic too. And 2018 was, while we introduced a few more new things to make it even better, was able to give us, I'll point at 3 major findings in the PILNA 2018.
Okay.
For literacy especially, and this will apply to numeracy too, the fact that there has been a general improvement in literacy and numeracy throughout the region.
Okay.
Yes. And then findings also tell us, to the second finding, tell us that the higher skills of problem solving and critical analysis are still areas that need attention.
Okay, so maths.
Maths and the why questions.
Yeah.
A why question. Why is this and that? You know.
Okay.
How?
Right.
You know?
Yes.
So we need to get our kids to start asking those questions first of all.
Right.
And then the third finding that would be interesting to share here is the fact that even though we see an improvement, there's still a high percentage of children who've yet to meet the minimum level of literacy and numeracy, for literacy especially. So this, when we take these reports to the countries, this is the same message we're putting across. And Louis, believe me, we've since 2012, 2015, and 2018, we've found that countries are embracing these results. They're picking them up, and it's assessment is actually driving things for them. It's actually helping them find ways to improve, because they find that it's bringing improvement and better learning opportunities for their children at Year 4, Year 6, and even beyond that. Maybe Sarah would like to add?
Please.
Just adding on to what Mrs. Kacilala is saying, with regards to one of the findings on students still struggling with high order thinking or critical thinking, problem solving. You pointed out that it's related to mathematics or numeracy. Well, in fact, it's also with literacy. So the ability to answer questions such as why, to rationalize things.
Right.
I studied for 2 years in Japan, and the focus of their teaching in the classroom is the whys and hows.
Right.
Maybe that's why they have started to develop their children from that younger age, the ability to look at some things, criticize that, and be able to come up with new invention based on something that they are seeing. That's critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking.
And that's where we need to drive through in terms of our, that's what the result is telling us for the Pacific. We need to
drive more on that.
On critical thinking. And it will help, I believe it will help solve a lot of issues and problems, social issues and problems that we are having. When they are able to look at the scenario and be able to make what is
Decisions,
decisions,
sound
proper decisions, sound
decisions,
decisions.
yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And that, all that is part of problem solving and critical thinking.
I
And
see.
that's where we need to be driving to.
Okay, so for the Pacific and Fiji as well, that's something that we need more of. So encourage the children to ask why and how. It's not like what you said, Ratieli, be gullible and believe everything that you're told, you know. I mean, my grandmother always used to say that, don't believe everything you're told. Have a mind of your own to analyze, like you say, critical thinking.
That's
Okay,
true.
that's good.
True.
So in this age of modern technology, there is information at the click of a mouse. Is literacy still important?
Yes, I believe it's still important. Even with the click of a mouse, there are instructions that are written
Exactly,
in
yes.
English that you need to follow.
Yes.
So if you don't really know how to read, then you'll be struggling with those instructions. So
True.
even with technology, literacy is still important, more important.
Yeah.
And children, they still need to know how to read and write. So it's a basic reading and writing.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say, you know, the basics in everything, I suppose, in every aspect of your life is really important. Once you have the basics, I think, you know, then you can add on from there. But the basics is like the foundation, I reckon.
It is. It
Yes.
is,
Yes.
yeah.
On Speak Your Mind, I hope you're enjoying the program. We'll be back shortly. Happy International Literacy Day. It's today, the 8th of September, and my guests in the studio have been kind enough to drop by from the numeracy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Seru Ramakita, and also the literacy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Ratieli Kacilala. So there is a saying that literacy is power. Well, obviously, you will agree. Yes? So maybe you two can say something about that. Literacy is power.
Okay. When someone is literate, I had mentioned earlier on, you have a voice in society. You compare that to someone who's not who's less fortunate, who hasn't had an exposure to formal education, classroom learning, or print. Literacy gives us that confidence.
Yes.
Yes, and we left in a situation our own, we're able to deduce what is good for us, and that's, you know, instead of you go somewhere else where there's foreign language used, you're not looking around to, you know, wonder if there's another Fijian around to help you, you know. You know that you need to look at symbols, you ask around, you have that confidence to ask, to know your whereabouts, to know what is good for you. I feel that there's a lot in literacy than, you know, what meets the eye. It's the very reason why we need to be getting parents, maybe getting children to read and learn, or learn to read,
Yeah.
to learn more.
And I like it how you said it gives you the confidence.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
To face wherever place that you go, what you want to find out.
Yes.
I mean, you have to have confidence to be able to, you know, get somewhere.
Yes.
I mean, like for me, it's easy. The fast way, ask somebody.
Yes.
Okay, where's this? Where's that? You know, you go get there faster. So, Seru, your take on how literacy is power?
It is power. It's just like switching on and off PowerPoint. So if you want something to on, you'll switch it on. Or if you want the light to come, you switch it on and then the light will come. It's the same with literacy. If someone is having difficulty reading, you'll be seeing that person there kind of pulling back or shy.
True.
But if that person there is good in reading, is able to speak or read something and comprehend well, he'll be able to articulate things well. He'll be able to speak his or her mind also. So it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's when I say power, I'm just looking at it as if there's a light there. So
True.
when there's a light, there's literacy there.
I mean, because literacy gives you knowledge. Yeah, and knowledge gives you power, I suppose. Yes. So, an essential component of a quality education system is the teachers. What does the PILNA research tell us about our teachers?
One thing that we know we're involving our teachers in is item development. That is how they can come up with questions that target skills in numeracy and literacy.
Okay.
And what we know as from people who've worked in the classrooms here in Fiji, anyone can get up and go do the papers, and maybe overnight, and the paper is ready. What we learned now that we are here at ECAP is that it's taken us a good 6 months, 6 months to, from the beginning, coming up with the initial thought of an item, a question, to now refining it, to finalizing it. It's not an overnight kind of thing. It's we consider the quality, what is it that we're trying to get at, whether it's going to disadvantage certain groups of children, whether it's going to advantage, whether kids might just answer this using prior knowledge or whatnot.
So the way that you construct that is in a way to bring out that skill in the child.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is something that the teachers in the Pacific are grateful for, those who've been involved in item development in PILNA. And they're taking it to practice. Yes. And
so how is it that you tell the teachers like to do it in such a way that will make the children be actually interested? You know what kids are like. You have to keep their attention, or sometimes, you know, they get a bit bored or get, you know, disinterested for a while.
Yeah, we have workshops. We run workshops with our teachers in the Pacific. But those workshops that we run with them are based on the PILNA data, the results that comes out.
Okay.
So if there's a learning, because each question is like linked to a learning outcome, to a skill.
Okay.
And if the result is telling us that students in the region are struggling with this learning outcome, with this skill, we go in, and then when we conduct our workshop to the teachers, we help to guide them, because they understand their context much better than us.
Yeah.
But we guide them on how they can come up with strategies or teaching strategies, interventions that would target that learning outcome and come up with an improvement on that skill. Okay, so that's how we go about doing it. We use the data that comes out from the result, and then we run the workshop. The beauty with PILNA is that each question is linked to a learning outcome, to a skill. It's not like what we used to do, where we experience as teachers. There's an exam or annual exam in 2 weeks' time. Okay, we just come in, look at past year's exam papers, collect all these questions, and then we give it out to. We are being unfair to students.
Yeah.
In this with this PILNA, we are just targeting. Okay, we're looking at quality, so we're targeting the learning outcomes that is needed, and we look at lifelong learning. It's not just about. This is not a normal exam where you go and then you get an aggregate out of it. No, it's all about lifelong learning. The result that comes out, what does it tells us? What information is coming out from there that will help us to discuss with not only teachers at ministerial level, how they can improve on processes.
Yeah.
And when we look at these PILNA results, we don't only look at the incorrect answers that the correct answers that students give. We also look at the misconceptions through the incorrect answers.
Okay.
Very useful information are coming from there.
True.
That is telling us what is happening probably in the classroom, or how they're interpreting what the teacher is saying.
Yes.
And so we can use that also as a basis of conducting our training and workshop with teachers for improvement.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. That's understandable. I know I always tell my son that, you know, even if you don't know the answer, just answer it. Give it a try. I mean, at least you'll have a chance of having a point and no points here. And they'd be quite surprised that sometimes they do answer it really good. Yes. On Speak Your Mind, we'll be back soon on Gold FM, only the classic hits. We're back on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. We're your only classic hit station in the country. I'm Louise Kacilala, and our guest from the numeracy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Seru Ramakita, and also the literacy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Ratieli Kacilala. So my question now is, do the region's teachers have the support they need to do their work, which includes teaching foundational literacy skills?
Thank you for that question, Louis. Yes, we can comfortably say that with assistance from Institute of Education for a place like Tonga and the USP in its centers around the region, the ministries of education in these countries are working closely with these agencies to provide or to facilitate staff development, professional development in literacy. But when we go out to disseminate this information to them, their results, we go out for a good 3 days to 4 days, some of us a week, and that's when we present the report as it is to the three groups. One to the senior officers of the ministry, and then the other two sets, the other two groups would include curriculum officers, the literacy and the numeracy officers. And then on the third day, we hold training with teachers where we're telling them, this is your result. This is what your kids can for individual item, individual learning outcome, and we're telling them 50% of your of the children in this particular country got this right.
Okay.
Yeah, only more than 50% got it wrong, and they'd be asking. We'll be floating questions as, why do you think this is the case? So that's support we provide.
Right.
So and then out of these workshops, then they come up with, like Seru had mentioned, come up with classroom assessment strategies, teaching strategies to further improve. But like I had mentioned earlier on, there's been a paradigm shift. From 2012, the results were, 2015, they were sort of looking, sitting at the back, and just the results weren't received as widely as we did the 2018. When the 2018 results, they embraced it because they knew it was helping them improve in their teaching and learning.
Good.
And just to reiterate some other a little point that that was part of the answer to the earlier question, that is the fact that it's an essential component to quality education. We're looking for evidence in students' learning. When interesting how you shared that bit about your child, and which is what the one very important message we are telling people, not to shy away from assessment, from PILNA. Write something, because we also, while we keep percentages of those who are leaving answers blank, there's a special code for it. We want to see the quality of answer you have. It will tell us, help us get teachers to identify where are the kids at in terms of this question. They are this far, they're not quite that far.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting, but the evidence has to be there, and that's maybe a message to put across to parents. A PILNA test, LANA for Fiji, and the ones in the country are not to be, don't shy away. Get your children to go and write their answers and responses to this, because it's information, it's something that they call in education assessment for learning.
Right.
Not so much learning of the children, but learning of the teacher.
True.
To know what is how best to teach the children in order to improve.
Yeah, to bring out the best in the child.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm sure they all have potential in their own ways. I mean, everyone is gifted, and the teacher plays a very important role, I must say, as well as the parents, of course. I mean, you can't do it all alone. Yes, but we'll move on to how can we encourage children to take more interest in reading. I mean, I'm sure right from the beginning, like when they are toddlers, you should be reading them maybe night stories to sleep. I remember that used to happen in the old days. Not holding on to the phone.
You said it. I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
It came from you.
That's what I always say to my son. I hope you're looking up
Yes.
your maths and your English on YouTube. You know,
She'll
look at
talk about
interesting
the
things.
what's this, the initiative, but I just want to say something on the findings that came from PILNA.
Okay.
One of our findings is that students who struggle in reading and comprehension also struggle with worded problems in numeracy.
Oh, it's related.
Very much
Closely related. Because problem solving is maths. I'm hopeless at maths.
So that's why all these reading initiatives like
Yes.
what Ratieli has there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Luis, maybe to share this point that other than the questions on numeracy and literacy, we also have a set of questionnaires. And we're interested to know what other factors are there that might have some certain association, that might have some impact on how well they do in literacy and numeracy. So we put out questions. There was a set of questions for head teachers and principal, set of questions for teachers and for pupils. We were asking them questions on their home environment, their school environment, and the instructional, what language do they use, or what are they used to, are they taught in?
Right.
So we two particular findings I'd like to raise. That is, when we found out, we wanted to know how many books do they have in their homes.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yes. So what we found is children who have come from homes with loads of books, and those who've come from homes without any book do not differ in performance. The performance is the same.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, yes, I'm going to go on to the catalyst that we're referring to, which is reading.
Okay.
The difference then would be those who have books, or those who might not have books but have some kind of exposure to some print, who are helping their children read.
Okay.
Yes. Reading, whatever form, but just reading. Reading. If it's reading aloud, nighttime reading, or, I always believe that if kids, how you model reading the Fiji Times in the morning, maybe, or any of the periodicals for that matter, and this little kid beside you has got it upside down, but it's a start. It's a start.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So reading out aloud is good modeling, and when kids see you, they will just do what you do. So if they see you reading, then they will do likewise.
Okay.
And it's sad that we are seeing already in Fiji at the table, to have a meal, you have parents busy with the gadgets, and they see kid playing with the fork or the knife, waiting for the meal to be ready. And it just breaks my heart to see this. I'm sure Fiji, we can do better than that. We still have that opportunity to encourage reading. There's DEAR program offered in schools, I believe. Let's drop everything and read. It's organized early in the morning. That's just to get people to read. Right? I think it needs to be emphasized that if the Australian government and the New Zealand government are, injecting, this, a lot of funding for literacy in the Pacific, then they're telling us that literacy is very important. There has to be library books. There has to be a library in schools or in the community that our adult learners can have access to, and children.
Both, yes. I mean, schools, they have libraries.
Yes.
So, children need to be going to the library and also making sure that they read their books. I think discipline too comes into it. I mean, sometimes the children just don't take any notice of their parents. And if you're just going to leave it, they just won't bother. You have to, be strict.
That is true.
Yeah. So maybe we go over how literacy is linked to proficiency in numeracy, Seru.
Nice.
Yeah, I have already mentioned that.
Okay.
With regards to that relationship, those who are struggling with reading and comprehension, they also struggle with word problems, and also that component on critical thinking.
Okay.
It comes back to the basics of reading. Because one thing is for word problems, some very basic word problems, where you are just requiring a student to count. It's just because the students are having difficulty trying to understand that sentence that is talking about counting. They struggle with it.
Yeah.
But if you put away that sentence and then you come up with a mechanical problem that is similar to that, which is all about counting, they can easily just go through that.
Yes.
So it's the importance of reading again in terms of literacy. Basic. I'm just going after basic.
Yes, basic. Yes. I mean, if you know your basics in mathematics, even it will help you with your reading and understanding whatever is written. Okay, we're about to finish off now, so I need to just find out about ECAPS hosting literacy awareness at the Suva City Carnegie Library. That's going to be on this Saturday, right?
This Saturday.
Okay, so can you tell us briefly about this?
We have a 2-hour program starting at 10, and we're encouraging primary school kids, secondary school kids, and their parents. If they're interested, come around. There'll be lots of fun games and giveaways.
Nice.
A lot of literacy games. We'll have a good tour of the library, get to find books, part of the games.
Yeah.
The large-scale assessment of ECAP is facilitating that, and we're looking forward to a good day out.
Oh, that's lovely. So this Saturday again,
This
and
Saturday.
you just turn up.
Turn up.
Yeah.
Yeah? Parents and their children.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So just very, very quickly, let's go over the key takeaway messages for our families today about literacy before we finish.
Literacy is power. Literacy is a tool for lifelong learning. We can't really blame our parents, and what is it that we don't want to play the blame games. But what is it that we can do from now on to get our kids and our families be more ready for COVID-19 and beyond?
Thank you, Ratieli. And Seru?
Yeah, as I've already said, with this COVID-19 pandemic, there should be a lot of time together now with that curfew at 11 o'clock. So parents are with their children at home most of the time now.
Yes.
It's a good time to engage them in reading. You don't need a teacher there to come and assist you with helping your children on how to read. Just present. Spend time there with your children and guide them on reading. Because it is a need. I can say it is a need. If they want to be good in mathematics or numeracy or science, then they need to be also good with English.
Yes.
On the other side also with my teacher colleagues, we cannot teach English in isolation from the subject. While teaching the subject that you're teaching, make sure that they also it's in line with basic literacy and in English.
Yeah.
Not to be in isolation.
So, Vinaka Vakalevu, thank you again for appearing on Speak Your Mind today, and that, of course, the numeracy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team, Seru Ramakita, and literacy lead of ECAP's large-scale assessment team as well, Ratieli, Kacilala, Vinaka Vakalevu. And a happy International Literacy Day again to you. Remember, keep reading and seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Until next week, Nisa Mode Manda.